I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Town of Manlius Planning Board meeting, specially scheduled for July 21st, 2025. Thank you for your cooperation with last week, where we unfortunately had, due to unforeseen circumstances, were unable to. So we actually are going to be approving the minutes from June 23rd, 2025. So I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions. Otherwise, I take a motion for approval. Make a motion to approve the minutes from June 23rd.
Second.
You were here.
Oh, I wasn't here. That's right.
No, I need someone else to make some motion.
I move.
Okay, David. Motion by David, second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Judy abstains. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Minutes from June 23rd, 2025 are approved. The next item on our agenda is for Crown Castle. This is for a special use permit renewal for a cell tower at 6721 Chef's Corners Road. Tax map number 046.02-13.0-1. We do have a memo, if everyone has been able to see it, from Tom Boydris, our code enforcement officer, that there have not been any complaints or violations from the neighboring property owners. No site changes or substantial changes from the original special use permit approval. He's recommending approval for a period of 20 years to expire July 21st, 2045. And I know our legal is in support of that 20-year period. So again, if there's no questions or comments, I would ask for a motion to approve. Okay, motion made by Don. I'll second. Second by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for the special use permit renewal for Crown Castle cell phone tower for a period of 20 years to expire July 21st, 2045. Okay. Alright, the next item on our agenda is for John Graves. This is on for a public hearing and a decision for an amended site plan and special use permit for Tracer Tech indoor driving range at 6940 Chef's Corners Road. This is tax map number 041.01-08.1. I see we have Ed Reed here on behalf of the applicant. If you could just give a brief, I know this is an amendment, so if you could just give a brief update for the public, and then we will go into the public hearing.
Okay. Ed Reed, engineer for the applicant. So last year we were before the board and we got site plan approval for the Tracer Tech indoor golf range. Since then, as my client put things out to bid and was getting some pricing back for the building and the site work, it just proved to be a little too expensive. So we had to return to the drawing board and do some value engineering on both the site and the building. As a result, we have reduced the square footage of the building from about 19,000 to about 13,000 square feet. And in addition to that, we moved the building a little bit on the site. And we also as a result of the square footage reduction, we were able to reduce some of the parking and impervious areas and site disturbances to get it down to a number that he could afford to construct. So with that, I'm back before the board with that amended site plan and building plans to discuss.
Okay. You have the draft meeting.
I do, yeah.
So what if those are rather share your screen? You got it. Okay. Before we open the public hearing, does the board have any further comments or questions? I do want to mention that we will not be doing seeker. This is an amended site plan. so we already did seeker, when we approved the first project. And as Ed indicated, the project is significantly smaller, and so nothing there has changed as far as seeker goes. Yeah,
Hold it, or is that an easel maybe?
I'm good holding it. I don't care. We don't have to get that out.
I don't really know. So you set up this phone.
He's got it covered.
Where do you put it?
yeah, or if you don't mind, do you mind just putting it behind you slightly, because that easel, just because I can't, now I can't see them.
How's that?
So looks good, perfect, if someone has to see it, we can see, okay. Does anyone have any comments or questions? If not, I would ask for a motion to waive the reading. Okay,
The degree of those comments, not really germane to my approval. Understand the drainage system in the parking lot. And I wonder, particularly, say, I look at the catch basin D5, that's here to go anywhere. We can catch. This is drawing CA 130.
So. So the entire parking lot is captured in the series of that storm system, and it's diverted to the east. The reason that there's no outlet, I think what you're saying is an outlet.
It doesn't show any pipe or anything to it.
Are you looking at the utility plan?
No, it's this board,
There you go.
Utility.
fine, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very flat.
all right. Thank you, Don. Does anyone want to hear the reading of the public hearing, otherwise?
I had a couple quick questions.
Oh, you did, okay.
I was reading through the response letter that you sent in.
Yeah.
Number 7, I will bring the fencing material specifications to the meeting. Your response to the ornamental fencing, I think that was around the,
Correct. So we also added, to follow up on that, because I didn't touch on that tonight, I should have. So you can circulate, circulate those around. That's the fencing that John chose. We also, in the latest set of plans, we did put the gates, as we discussed last time, for access. Okay, and then also the access points into the mini golf area.
Yeah, I think we have an email as well. Yeah.
okay. I didn't know that. On number 10, the sign. And I don't think it matters really for anything other than clearing things up, but there was plantings shown in the base of the sign on the sign drawing itself. On the planting plan, there aren't any shown. So you might want to take them off the sign detail, the sign cut sheet, I guess it is, if you don't want them on there.
Oh, the one from the signage company.
Yeah, I went back
The
and looked,
schematic.
it said it was the original, so I went back to find the original.
Yeah.
And it showed like plantings and some stuff, and
Yeah.
I think just to have it all the same, you might wanna have that updated for your final set. And then on number 22, talked about how the parking expansion down below and the existing one was not gonna be part of this project.
Yep.
The cover and CA 100 still have it on it.
So we show that as now existing on, what do you mean the cover?
The cover sheet, it just shows like overall, like reference plan or something, and then CA 100. Both show that little expansion still on the set.
So the original application if you remember, we had to do the special use permit. We bundled everything into that one package. When we came back for this, the decision was made to separate that out. But because I had to show this parcel in its entirety, in the viewport of my computer, it was kind of hard to clip that. So I just showed that as for relativity, because I have to
No,
show
I
the
just
setbacks
mean
to
the
the building.
expansion of it.
This expansion, because it's done,
Oh, okay.
so it actually exists.
I thought that was being left off. Project.
It is,
It's already done,
it's already done.
as part of the other. Got it.
Okay.
This application and this modification is specific to the driving range portion.
Last meeting you talked about, you were gonna show some building color elevations too.
Yeah, and then I think the decision was made
Yeah,
that
and you said that's not changing. The exterior is the same as the left.
Make the motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
Yes. Okay. Motion made by Rich. Second by Don, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, we have the reading, and now I need a motion to open the public hearing. Motion made by Judy.
Second.
Second by Rich, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, the public hearing is now open. So Ed, if you wanna. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Tracer Tech Indoor Driving Range public hearing? Okay, Lisa, do we have anyone online? I do not. I'll make a motion to close.
I move to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion made by David,
I just have, just a matter of terminology, stuff, it sounds like that's support. Would want to speak against, with just the use of it, speak on behalf of the project.
oh,
It
sorry,
sounds like it's
sorry.
to support it. rather
Oh,
than
okay, I was like, yeah, okay,
So,
speak about the project, yeah, sorry, misuse words. Okay, so we have a motion made by David. I'll second by Aaron, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion carries, close the public hearing. Okay, so are there any other comments or questions by the board? Doug, did you have any other items?
The only two that I had here, is Ed knows he's still waiting on final approval from, Jeff Till, DOH.
So, for it.
You got it? Yeah. Okay. And,
Okay, here, right there?
Yep.
Can I look at it?
You right?
DOT did reference it, and Jake's working on it.
Yeah.
Those are the-
So this just says, I think this has some contingencies on it, right, the health department officials, so you can make it subject to any condition.
And same with DOT? Okay. Is there anything else, any other conditions?
We talked about, sky compliant full cutoffs.
Think so. I know the fixtures in respect are, so let me just make sure that there's a.
Okay.
And Doug, I just want to also mention that we did receive one letter, they're not here in the public hearing, obviously, but we did receive one letter from a resident regarding flooding and stormwater. Doug, I know you reviewed everything, did you want to speak?
Sure, I mean, the stormwater plan that Ed put together shows that he's mitigated stormwater appropriately on the site, so we're all covered.
So in the description, Doug, to answer your question, in The description in the column over here, as you called for full cutoff on every single one of the pictures.
Thanks.
What's the date of the original approval? Yeah, no, that's okay. And what's the final date on these plans? Ed?
I want to say June 1st. Yeah, I'm sorry, July 1st.
Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments or concerns, if someone wants to make a motion for the project, to approve for this plan dated July 1st, 2025, this modification of the plan approved with the date that Lisa will get us from the previous approval. With the findings and conditions of the site plan approval and special use permit, subject to conditions of the Onondaga County Health Department letter of July 9th, 2025, and any conditions of the DOT.
That's exactly. the motion.
And you do that,
Just word for word.
Word for word.
Okay, so motion made by Rich.
I'll second that.
Oh, so Don, second by Don. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or was that was an aye?
Aye.
Okay, all right. Motion carries approval for the Tracer Tech indoor driving range with the amended site plan and special use permit.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Promises, promises.
Yeah. All right, the next item on our agenda is Tim Cooley this is on for the third presentation for site plan and special use permit for a pool barn at 8568 East Genesee Street. This is tax map number 091.02-02.2.
Okay, so we are back. We made some modifications that were discussed. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. Oh, join this here on the list. Excellent. Some of the discussions, there were continued conversation. There was an email with additional comments, and we get the plans pulled up. And additionally, Mr. Cooley is here as well. I know that was a point of interest for the board, introductions, but otherwise I'm here to speak on the design and the continued conversation. Is this shared? No, there we go. I don't know if you'd like me, I don't know how you'd like me to start, if I should go through that comment section. If you guys would like to start talking, how would be best
I
to?
think going through the comment section would be great, and then we could interject with any questions or comments we have.
Okay, I pulled up, I made a PDF of the email that was sent, and then conversations we had in response. It's not as big as I'd like it to be. So I guess point one we started with was the conversation around building color. I know the board expressed concerns or interest rather in potentially more neutral colors, and I came back to Mr. Cooley and discussed that, and as mentioned in this letter, the product was previously ordered prior to all of this, before going to the codes officer for when It was understood that this was only a permit process and not site plan approval, and that, so there wasn't any, I guess, ill intention ordering it in a different color, but now we're at a point where the product's been ordered, we're trying to go through site plan approval. And so I guess maybe it's an open discussion if it's okay, how much that's a sticking point for the board on color, and if necessary compromises need to be made about post-installation painting and color, but I guess that's kind of where we landed on that, so I think that probably is a point you guys would like to have a conversation on. I don't know if you want to stop now or go through the letter and then pull up the points that.
Yeah, we can stop now.
Okay.
Rich, looks like he wants to say something.
About color or about building?
Color of the building.
Color. Okay, I don't have much to say about the color. I want to talk about the way this building is laid out. So I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, I think I brought up the color because referencing our comprehensive plan. And, trying to stay within the character of the neighborhood that red and black.
Right.
Across there, but I don't know what the rest of the board feels at this point. I mean. I don't have a problem. It is, obviously, it is what it is, but we can't change the building. I mean, I wouldn't be unhappy if it was a different color eventually, but understanding the circumstances. I'll deal with it.
Now, it's always important to think in terms of setting a precedent for something like this happening. Someone says, why are you coming back to us? Or you order the building, and say, well, you've approved it before.
Sure.
So one of the things that I have concern about isn't, the end result is, I think, that note saying this is not a precedent, we're trying to do the best that we can with what happened. I would probably end up also approving it, but in the previous meetings, we asked for a lot of things that were not even in the letter. We asked for the mirror image to be reversed, we asked for an awning that should have the wrong dimensions on it. As for parking should not be in front of the overhead door. And a lot of things that we asked for.
All of that was, if we're gonna jump into building concerns, let me get this larger.
Alex, just the more important thing, one to me, is we can go over those and I'm sure the answers, but the big one was, is there a business being run from that property? We wanted the owner to answer. Is there a business being run from that property?
Is there a business being run from the property?
I mean, I own a landscape business. I'm retired now. I try not to work. So, I mean, my stuff is still in the building. And I do work occasionally, but not like I used to. I had 2 open heart surgeries and it was recommended that I don't do any work like I used to. It's kind of hard, but I just, that's where I keep all my stuff.
Yeah, which is allowed in this zone, commercial storage is
Yeah.
allowed in this zone with a special use permit.
That's
So I
fine.
think that's fine. Yeah,
My
before we go
concern
on,
is-
before we go on to the others, I just wanna get an idea, does anyone else wanna speak to the color so we can move on?
I'm not gonna prove it if you
I agree with noting that, because it was already, we're already in the process that, we keep it.
You're saying,
No, what I'm saying is that they're already in the process of getting the color that they wanted. We talked about color at the last meeting.
Right.
So, as David said, we just say that we're not setting a precedent for the business.
Yeah,
It's specifically okay for this.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Even though it wouldn't be the first choice.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, and then I think there was, yes, there was a discrepancy. We had gone back and forth about the spacing between the existing building and the proposed one. From awning, not building proper, there's about 5 feet. Building proper, there's about 17 feet. I spoke with Tom Coates, and we both went back and forth and did quite a bit of fire code research and came to the conclusion it is okay. But I believe it's noted that the survey, which was done prior to this whole design process, that was also occurring, shows 3.5, so we will ensure that the survey shows the correct 5-foot spacing between that awning and the building. And then,
Do we have the corrected survey or? do you have to
no,
get
I
that
need to
us?
get that, I will make sure that's with you guys for the next one, but I need to follow up with the surveyor again, I requested it, but,
If we could just spend a little time with that awning,
yeah, absolutely.
because I think that's one of the problems that I have in looking at these things, is that something doesn't make sense.
Only was wrong dimension.
Well, not just wrong dimensions, on the wrong side of the building. I see this plan,
Yeah, that's,
and I see the garage doors over here and the awning over there, which does make sense from this awning drawing.
Yeah.
That's on that side. But when I look at
the first one.
this drawing, it's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
It's got,
That's on the far side, so that's looking at the west end of the building, which is,
The reason why that's looks weird is because the one building is shown face on and the other one is shown as. On here, it's not,
Perspective, on the perspective.
yeah, so you wouldn't be seeing one dead on and the other one at that exact angle, so it's tricking your eye.
but I have,
It's not how, well,
I think these aside, you rotated 180.
That's what I said, it's a mirror.
This is showing continuous here, that can't be
right,
this way. This needs to be rotated. And there's another issue with it, not an issue, but another representation.
so this view is this one, so it is, the canopy awning is flush and running with it, and then this one
But it
is.
should be
If you rotate this, it's gotta be
because
180.
it's
To
because
match this.
this should be on this side.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I think that's how I had before, and I flipped it, maybe I started flipping too many drawings, because it just keeps pulling.
this
Everyone
drawing
is
is
on point.
in reverse. You've got east and west and east. This
Yeah.
is not the western adjacent, this is the eastern adjacent.
Oh, the
So
labels.
this whole thing is flipped as well.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a material thing on decision, but
No, I'll make sure those labels are correct and showing you, I was trying to.
the building is reversed as well. This
Oh my
needs to
gosh,
show-
yeah, you're right, okay, I'll make sure those are,
Yep.
yeah.
And why are the proposed rates from the survey?
So that was the original survey when it was getting permitted, and they wanted to, for the, just the permit process, they wanted to see where that building was sitting. And now we've opened it up as a site plan, and so that's what, I'll get that removed, so it's just the existing conditions, but that was a survey plus showing location for up to date. When you need to bring a plan in like that.
I think what he was trying to get building permit originally.
That makes sense. For this point
Yeah.
in the process, the visuals that will come off.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't fill myself over it at this point on the survey, but.
Well, I mean, I'll get it reviewed, so last meeting we did talk about it and said it was okay, but I think we need to change it because of the
It's in the wrong spot
dimensioning now.
anyway. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
so,
it.
but yeah, we had talked before that it would be fine, but,
She's gotta fix it with the distance.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Oh, me, sorry. All right, and then, oh yeah, so DOT, I just wanted to ensure we are on the same page, maybe I interpreted the comment differently, but we sent the drawings to DOT and they said they were happy with the curb cut, or rather just didn't give any further comment and said, come to us when we need a permit, and this is the permit you need. And so I just want to ensure that that's not a point, because I think it mentioned that it would potentially be approved subject to, and I, just want to make sure we weren't needing to pull a permit prior to site plan approval.
Doug, can you answer that?
Right. Right.
That's all good.
Okay, awesome. And then I think we kind of already talked about, or I want to make sure we've touched on all the architectural inconsistencies. I think it's that elevation, making sure those buildings are shown on the correct side. It's, and then I can flip that other elevation if that would be helpful. And if those are the two, then I think that makes sense for those. The proposed building will remove from the survey. And I think that was all the points in the email anyway, so maybe we open it up if there's something I need to cover.
Yeah, Doug, are all the heights that you were looking for, is like building height, all the building dimensions, is that acceptable now?
Yeah, I can do it fine.
We also had a comment about the parking should not be in front of the overhead door.
Are we talking about on which portion? I know we talked a bit about those things. We show, I wish I had a laser pointer, maybe I can
You have
draw.
enough parking for what's required without having the overhead door, front of the overhead door be one parking spot.
I thought we did discuss that, but I thought we said like kind of where else would they put it in?
Right.
It is like parking in front of the garage, like the existing building,
Well, then
like
he's,
any other.
yeah, he's just gonna pull in to unload
Maybe you got
things
different notes.
and exit too. I don't know if that was a perfect solution, but that's, I thought, where we landed.
Good with that.
Yeah, I thought we. I'm pretty sure. Leave it up. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, so Alex, do you feel like you have what you need to, I think we need to see all of that, have all of that tidied up so that we can then schedule a date for a plan.
So you don't feel knowing that, I mean, I can get those,
I think we can, or I'm being told we can probably schedule it.
okay. Okay, I just wanted to check. I will make sure the architectural, or like the survey is updated to remove the
As long as the
proposed.
public has enough time to
Okay.
review the correct information.
Yeah, I can get it
So I don't know
tomorrow
what-
if you want.
Lisa, what would that work out to be?
Easy. I'll make it happen.
What would the deadline for her to have everything in? July
Oh, I can
30th
do
would
that.
be the deadline.
I'll have it to you by then or before.
Okay, so I could take a motion for a public hearing on August 11th. Right, motion made by Don, second by Rich, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for public hearing on August 11th. And those
Okay.
items that we discussed.
Will be to you. Yep,
Okay,
thank you so much.
all right, thank you.
I'm gonna keep this up so Scott can plug stuff in, if that sounds good. We can pull digital files up. I will be kicked out of the Zoom.
All right, our next item on our agenda is for Highbridge Senior Apartments, Highbridge Street in Fayetteville. This is on for discussion, an update, and to set the date for public hearing. This is a planned unit development tax map number 093.01-05. We've got Scott here. to
Yep,
give us-
evening, Scott Payne,
Sorry.
Freeman
Give us
Associates.
the update.
We met with the town board.
Can I interrupt for a second? Can I ask just a procedural question?
Yes,
Are the meetings or the minutes of this meeting what I'm reading on the board?
oh no, it's just a closed captioning. It's closed captioning for the live meeting on Zoom.
You asked a question about building height, and it came up fielding height.
Oh,
And
yeah,
there
yeah.
are a number of
These
other
one,
areas.
the captioning is not used to put the
Okay.
minutes together, at least it's taking minutes the old fashioned way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we went to the town board and presented the project with the amended PUD, and it went well. So we have an increased unit count and a modified parking count. They were in agreement with what we presented. We had discussion. We referred to the town board public hearing, which we went through and successfully went through with minimal comments. And we received a positive recommendation, and we're back here to meet with the planning board and move forward. We did submit, following that meeting, full architectural, full site plans, everything that was discussed and approved at the town board meeting is in your packets. That's what all the printing was. So it's all updated. I know there were comments in the past where we came in for an incremental meeting. We came in to this meeting fully updated. So everything that was discussed at the town board meeting is in your account, in your packages. And we're here to hear comments and hopefully schedule a public hearing for the project. But I'll your lead.
Okay, well, I know we've got some different questions. We have a legal related question and an engineering related question. I did want to clarify one thing and then I'll see what everybody else wants to bring up. Just to clarify, the 102 units, are the 8 penthouse condos part of the 102 or an addition to the 102?
They're part.
Okay, so
Included.
it's 102 total,
Yes.
including the 8. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
That's what I called up right there. Anticipated this question.
Oh,
I'll
yes.
let Jamie talk about
Yes, so we were talking about the road dedication, and I know I did actually talk to Chris Danner today, he couldn't come tonight, he's the attorney for the project. So he, reported to me that they have gone through the steps of the road dedication and the consent of the adjoining property owner for a dedication of the road. That's what was, I guess, originally talked about. In fact, a map from some years ago kind of shows this blank space of nothingness. He had expressed that it would be very difficult to backtrack off of the road dedication matter and make it a private road. That this, the next door, it's the
Brookdale.
Dale is a multi LLC business. It's not just the Brookdale, there's layers of it, and if that this particular thing was quite an undertaking with multiple attorneys, and he would like a board to consider, you know, that this would be a publicly dedicated road as part of this, if it meets all the criteria.
I guess the $1,000,000 question is for months, who owns it now? Isn't it Brookdale?
Well, it is, it's on their property, yes,
So we need buy-in from them.
yes, yes, and Chris Daniker said that you would supply all of that documentation, and yes, that we got all their buy-in and
We
an
do have that.
agreement that is
Yes.
either signed or ready to be signed.
It's
or-
contingent on what we're doing here. So that's the background. The back history is that Brookdale has limited funds going forward for maintenance, and that road is in such a state of disrepair. They're having challenges because they want to focus their money on the building, not the road. And when we came along, Tom and Bill made it part of our transaction would be, we'll update the road fully, make it public, so you won't have to bear that expense. And then in return, Brookdale would provide us with the pedestrian easement through the property and all the other easements associated with this joint venture, if you will.
What are pedestrian easements that you're going through the project?
Well, we need permit. One of the requests was, we had a sidewalk on the property that dead ended. I think it's Valerie that brought it up. We should have a sidewalk that connects to their sidewalk. So we need, that's a permission for that to occur, that was recent. And then initially, we have we didn't want to put the sidewalk in the right of way because it'd be too close to the road, it'd be very unsafe, there's no curbing on High Bridge. So we put the sidewalk on Brookdale property, so that requires permissions to construct that sidewalk.
Is that all part of this document that Chris was talking?
Yes.
granted us.
Yeah, we have it all ironed out based on what we're talking about, but if there's a change, Chris was describing to me that it was a 6-8 month endeavor to get this far, so we're trying to hold the course, because it's not only about the sidewalk and easements, it's about the whole deal to purchase the property, and build the project.
Let's finish talking about that, and then obviously we'll need to see that document, because it's gonna be
Yep.
at least in draft form, and then it'll be a contingency.
And Chris did that too. The thought here was, we're dealing with a couple of entities, and they're all out-of-town attorneys that have no interest in this Manlius at all, to be perfectly frank. And so Welltower owns the property, and Brookdale is the managing entity. Brookdale doesn't have the capacity to maintain the road anymore. They need out from underneath the maintenance of the road. So part of our agreement was we would bring the road up to specs, town specs, and the town then would take dedication of the road. And part of that agreement was, in our last town hearing with the town board, there was more conversation about the sidewalks than there was the project, to be honest with you. The sidewalks, we are the impetus to start the sidewalks to head towards the village. So we are paying for the dedication of the sidewalks across, and Welltower was willing to allow us the right of way across their property to Dartmoor Crossing. And that's as far as we can go, because we don't own the property beyond that or have any relationship. So that was the trade-off with working with Welltower. To go back to try to renegotiate this, one of the attorneys is retired, it would be almost impossible. We'd be another year trying to get this deal renegotiated at this point. To take the.
I guess I can give a personal assessment of how we look at this. And I think it's only my opinion. I think it's foolish for the town to take over this road, no compensation. In other words, it's been maintained, plowed, repaired for probably 20 years now at least.
Yeah.
And we haven't spent a dime. And now we're being asked to take on this roadway, and we start plowing it, maintaining it, repairing it, and we're not getting compensated. Yeah, I know it's not my decision. That's something.
But
the town board-
how can you say you're not being compensated?
I think they said that
Where are property
they
taxes going
sidewalks
for
were-
these two projects?
Well, it's like the
It's a very
background.
short road, Rich. I don't understand how you could even say you're not being compensated. This is a facility that is much needed. It's for seniors, and you have an existing Alzheimer's facility. And to say that you're not being compensated when we're paying for the expense of bringing it up to town standard, we're delivering to the town a brand new road.
And that's,
The town is using it now to turn around and so forth. I'm not even sure they're not even plowing, to be honest with you, because they turn around.
I don't think the town drives on that road.
You're mistaken. They do turn around with their plows on top.
Well, what's Cushing's opinion on this? I didn't watch the town board. You know, no?
You have to ask.
Oh. I didn't know what his position was.
Yeah, I don't have
You
any
guys
input in it.
He was asked way back,
Who will be reviewing the road specs?
Robert.
Finally.
On your current set of drawings, on your L 1.0, you indicate the Gramercy Circle, the road will be built according to the data. And then in L 1.1, there's a cross section of what's called a local road section.
It's,
This
I'll make
Millwood road, will that bring it into conformance with the local, with the cross section?
No.
L 1.0.
that's a bad note. I'll take that from the drawings. That's a wrong note. You got a good nose for this thing. I'm gonna hire you as a consultant to find holes in my drawings, so.
So just milling isn't necessarily.
No,
bringing
no,
us up to town
All,
standard.
all kidding aside, let me just take you through what we did. So we have geotechnical engineer on the team. So what he did was he cored depths, corings through the asphalt into the subbase to define what's there. You can't rebuild a road till you know what's there. So we have a document that specifies how thick the asphalt is. It's all horrible, it's gotta go. But then we took, the corings go into the stone, and it shows that there's the proper gradation and the proper depth. So that means you can take off the asphalt and the stone is good. But when we regrade our project site, we're bringing the circle up a little bit to minimize the drop. So you're gonna have the existing stone that's good there now, we're gonna add more stone on top of it. So it will exceed the depth of stone for a town road. The other thing a town section road asks for is gutters. There's no gutters out there right now. Drainage right now comes down the hill and goes into the waterway untreated. It just goes. So with the proposed plan for the town cross section, the water will come down, it'll be crowned, there'll be two gutters coming down the hill, and every time, there'll be 5.
Scott, the current detail for roads in town Manlius don't have gutters.
Okay, well, we put gutters in.
Uses tip ups, you want to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm staying corrected, I go to a lot of towns. We'd have tip up gutters, which to Doug's point is the asphalt tipped up. But we are channeling it, Doug, and we are collecting it into 5 stormwater catch basins that aren't there now. So we're improving the drainage.
So there might be work done other than milling, but you'll get to that house.
We're not,
Cross-section?
we're not milling, we're removing all the
Well, that's
asphalt.
just what signified on these plans.
There's one note that says that, but the cross-section and the grading plan and the layout plan all call for
Okay.
a whole new road.
One other minor point, on L1.1 sidewalk is labeled, quote, easement the village of Manlius. I want to change it to town.
Yeah, you're good. Change that too.
Yeah, and to address Rich and your point, I think when they started talking about the road and when they appeared before the town board, I think they said there was a compromise that the town would accept the road because they're gonna do the sidewalks.
If they got the sidewalk.
With Brookdale as part of
It
it.
sounds like that's what you guys are saying.
Yes, that's exactly what with
So I think
Brookdale,
that's the compensation.
they're giving us the easement and then we're getting the road replaced.
At our cost.
That are,
My memory may not be as good as other people's, but I remember some discussion about this a long time ago. And Brookdale said, we don't want heads bobbing in our windows walking past our building. They thought it was a negative for Alzheimer's. Whether management's changed, whether they've changed their mind, I don't know, but they did not want sidewalks, people going from one property to their property. And that, like I said, that made a change.
Yeah, Rich, the sidewalk is out along High Bridge. It's not really even visible for the patients.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't see it.
it goes,
Yes.
Sidewalk.
it's right, where you can kind of see it on the upper, there's this Hyford Road, what's in tan, that's where the sidewalk would go.
Okay, so all the discussion that we had before about putting sidewalks close to the Brookdale building is gone.
There is one connection point to Valerie's point off
Yeah,
the,
it's a connection like away from your building, huh?
but where it says town road, see that little town road right above the circle? To the left, there's a sidewalk that's Brookdale's, and below, we're putting a connector walk to it.
There is,
Okay.
to your point, connectivity, because part of our agreement in the PUD is we offer X number of units available to anyone whose family is staying in Brookdale.
Right.
To be able to walk over, and as a courtesy, we were even willing to offer them a golf cart so that they could traverse back and forth to see the thing.
If you look at that zoom in right there, there's that little S curve to the left, I just lost it. That's, Valerie brought that point up, it's a good point, we had a dead end sidewalk going to the waste enclosure, but if you continue that walk on, it provides a connection sidewalk to their campus, and there's a beautiful walk that goes around the Brookdale facility. And it, to your point, Rich, it comes within 15, 20 feet of the windows in some locations, but in most locations, it's probably 15, 20, 35 feet, and it's heavily landscaped around the
I just
outside.
raised that was a concern years ago. If it's not anymore, so be it.
Yeah, I think there's there's a similar facility or facilities in like this. I have personal experience with them. There's an Alzheimer's unit. They're owned by the same company, but there's an Alzheimer's unit and then there's assisted living. And I know like my grandmother was in the assisted living, my grandfather was in Alzheimer's, but she was able to go back and forth and like we were able to go, we could visit her and then go visit him and vice versa. So there was a lot of like walkability that.
And that was one of the,
I
actually,
think it's a nice model. I think it works well there. It's Greenpoint, if you want to play Liverpool. It does the same kind of.
and that was part of the deal with Brookdale, that they
Yeah.
like, because there's certain rooms that are dedicated for people visiting people in Brookdale. They can come here and then walk or take the golf cart, so there's
Yeah.
a symbiotic relationship there.
And we even further made those apartments available on a month-to-month basis. So depending on how long your family members stay, you can rent it for a month, you can need it for years, whatever. So.
Planning board approval back in April was for 87 units, this is only 1 to 102, does that mean that they get to be those again, or are we still good to go with it?
It decides the board if they want to submit it again.
I'm probably fine, but I didn't know if technically or change wires, mandate someone.
I don't think so. So the county thinks so. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if they didn't actually mention anything about the number
Tom,
of units.
we actually had a work session with the town planner. Doug was part of that meeting as well, maybe even Jamie. And it was really at the town meeting, at their advisement to increase the number of units. That they asked us to see if we could, without increasing the footprint of the building, which we were able to do by adding more units on the top floor, and redesigning a couple of the units, we were able to make that accommodation. But it was at the advisement of the town to take that number of units from 6 to 1 to.
I'm fine with the number, I just didn't know
Yeah.
procedurally.
Yeah, if it's.
There's an issue with us and the county planning board going
Do
over.
you want to submit it? Okay, we'll send it again.
It's on the same timetable
It's
as
all in
when a
the-
public hearing would happen,
Yeah.
so it doesn't know.
Had no experience with this kind of a change with that third party.
Yeah,
They don't need it, don't want it, I'm fine with that.
we'll submit it again because we have time. So, and then it's in the.
I'm not sure that was our recommendation for an applicant to increase the number of rooms they have. We did, I do understand looking at this. Apologize, we didn't get that to you. But I think in general terms.
Yeah, the only real change was within the building, and we shuffled the parking around a little bit, but
Yeah, do you
the town road didn't change, the parking
And if you
configuration
recall,
didn't change.
when we met before, we had comments about all the parking.
Yeah.
And I think Judy was on board with what we were saying, is when you come around the corner, you're gonna see the landscaping and that, a sea of cars, right, so.
Doug, did you have a question though as to the number of parking spaces?
Yeah, and I think, it was ambiguous how many units were in here, whether it was 102. That was quantified a little bit by what Scott was saying. Scott, so at some point, it would be nice to know what you base your parking counts on and how that correlates to the mixed use you have in here and the staff that have to maintain the building, and visitors and those type of things, just so we make sure that we've got adequate parking on here. If we don't, then we would have to get some type of agreement with somebody else nearby to. Tom Board also was very adamant about having EV chargers, right? So the EV chargers may or may not play into that, but it would be, one of the things that plays into the overall parking for the site.
talked also about employees, whether they're employees of the apartment complex or some of the commercial uses that will be.
It is very similar to resort lifestyle, right, a discussion that we had, for those of you who were on the board then, it's very similar to the discussion we had for resort lifestyle. And we worked through all that, so
Yeah, I think
I don't think it's a big issue.
if you can just like indicate where you came up with
Yeah, I
the
think
verified
it's-
sufficient.
It's a unique building with, I think, the word commercial, maybe you want to talk a little bit at that time. It's not open to the public, but it might be a
No.
part-time person working there. You know, full-time staff here is gonna be one, maybe two people.
Yeah,
maximum.
our staff is, management is gonna be outside. And the only commercial entity with this project would be like a hair salon for the people who live there. And it would be maybe one chair, just, so you're talking one or two.
I think that's understood, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, if you have a salon, if you have the convenience store you talked about, you know, a couple other things that people are gonna be working there, so just as long as we compensate that.
It would be very,
But it needs to be part of the discussion.
So we have a narrative, you know, just to sum it up right now, we have 102 spaces, all inclusive, 102 units, we have 124 spaces, and then we have 10 spaces, future expansion spaces if needed. We had another 8 or 10 closer to the road, but the town planner advised to keep minimal parking spaces in the view shed from the road, High Bridge Road, so we're flexible. I guess we'll expand the narrative and we can talk about it. You know, we've done other facilities. You can cite all kinds of regulations and documentations. Every facility is a little different, but
I think if you give us the basis of your.
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
can weigh it, we could probably.
I think we have it, but it needs a few more points, as you pointed, Doug, on the staff and the workers and
Yeah.
I think it's.
Since they're PUDs, so there really aren't any regulations other than your basis of design and what that correlates back to. For similar to, for example.
I'll just mention this again, this is me speaking, not the board, but the PUDs are something new in the town. And they created a law. And the law is, I guess, somewhat detailed, but I was surprised that somewhere there was an agreement between the town and the developer that was signed. Because there's certain obligations in that law that the developer is agreeing to do, whether it's workforce housing units or whatever the case may be that's in there. And so we talked about this with Jamie, but I think we need to have some, I don't know if it's deed restrictions or whatever, that would overall lay out what the agreement is between the town and the developer, so that a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if the property is sold, those deed restrictions or limitations, whatever you wanna call them, go along with the building. So I'm putting that out there because we need to give some thought to that. I think that's important. It's important to me from a town perspective to make sure we have an understanding.
Those things, what plan they had to prepare for the town board approval
Yes,
or not? Is that
yes,
also
but
a
they're,
Word document?
well, they're not part of the, something that's a recorded document. And, you know, it's covered in this somewhere.
That's actually attached to that kind of document.
If you
I
don't,
mean, I understand your point, but that's why that document sets a framework that is obligatory upon this applicant or anybody who's running the facility. I don't know.
yeah, that would be, I
Jamie,
was
is
thinking
the
it,
plan
not
part of me? I mean,
Well, it's, you know, I'm not so sure that the way it's in there really specifies how it's implemented. So we're gonna look at that, so we'll look at this.
Well, approval subject to the compliance of the further conditions contained in the application.
Yeah, my concern always is that, you know, who's who's on notice of it, right? It's not in a deed, it's not in a final document, so. That might be some.
I at least wanted to raise that so it didn't come as a surprise.
Yes.
Or
Like it's
like all our obligations, it's really code person has to.
yes, but those tend to be,
I mean, if this gets a little
right,
subjective.
right, like if there's things that are just like things you have to do, they're really not reflected in a document that someone is gonna go find and file. So if the property gets sold, then someone's like, well, thanks, glad I've got this, and it's got a site plan, thanks very much. Oh, it needs work
So
force.
here's funding signing up to it as well. There's a
Right,
formal
right.
steps.
It's gonna have a survey, it's gonna have a lot count, it's gonna have a unit count. The survey and legal description, which should cover the pedestrian access through the site. I guess,
It's gonna get a site plan, it's not gonna have, there's no covenants, right?
and then the new plan would be subject to site plan review anyway, it wouldn't be
No, but it would.
grandfathered.
No, I'm talking about the very specific things like if there's so much of the workforce and so much is being used for the deaf people and so forth. None of that is, that's going to get.
So is that a document, as a landscape architect,
Well,
point of
see,
view,
I'm
it's
talking
not
about
something I can
If
do.
Chris was here, he would know what I'm talking
Yeah, no,
about.
I guess that's my point. It seems like it's a discussion
Yes,
between you and Chris,
yes,
a legal document that accompanies our final set of drawings.
Yeah,
Our final
Right, that
survey.
would be fine.
I guess to Rich's point, a PUD agreement that's a little more detailed.
Yeah.
I think there's some things
Certain
missing. I mean,
aspects of it.
we talk about a beauty salon and a convenience store and so on and so forth in the structure. Personally,
I think we have a draft
should
that
be-
done for the next meeting.
there should be some language that says limited to 1,500 square feet.
We will do that in the draft for next meeting, so you have
I'm
it.
thinking maybe in a general sense, it would just be, a document where maybe that HUD is filed. It is. And index against the property, because that's the only way that's gonna have a. Here's the next. It is not, the HUD is not filed. Why not the clerk's office? I mean, it's just a document.
But it's not, but even though it's local law.
It's not filed against the property.
So,
Which is another one of our problems.
on that,
We'll figure it
I
out.
have just a couple questions.
Yes.
Yes. We took off carts. Parking locations to be determined.
We actually show them under the canopy on one of our partial plans. There's
Okay,
we have room for, right? Those two little red rectangles.
oh yeah. I wondered-
That's a covered, that the brick pattern, that's an overlook over the landscaping, and above those rectangles, that's where the additional units are. So it's a covered area for the cars, pedestrians, and then that 1/3 zone is, we could put some tables out, and we put a little boulder rock planting, natural area around it. So that's like another little bonus space for people to congregate on nice days. And the
I
carts.
just wanted to make sure it was covered in that. That's the kind of thing too that might want to be included in the, what is documented for posterity.
Well, yeah, so,
Amenities there.
yeah, it's the amenity thing, right, that is the concern, because any other site plan that comes in, you got this, you got that, you got your road, you got your sidewalks, you got your site plan, right? It's subject to whatever, happens in the town and changes, it's the soft stuff. That, I'm not concerned about anything that's a fixed thing on a site.
Right, that's like the little prompt, so along that line, on that same sheet L3, there was some future stuff. Pergola, fire pit, pickleball court, they all say future next to them. And I think
Are they gonna happen or are they not gonna happen? That's the question.
Yeah. Let me ask a question, answer your question by asking a question. What would be in the best interest for the developer and the town as far as going forward with this? Should we show it as being there and getting it approved, or should we show it as future?
why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't it be part of the project?
Well, it's a new model. I mean, we might decide maybe people want bocce courts instead of pickleball. Maybe we don't want a fire pit, maybe we just want a gathering area. You know, maybe we want a shade structure. I mean, it's in the back.
Aaron, to answer that question, pickleball, when we started this project 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't know what pickleball was. And now everybody plays pickleball.
Yeah.
Nobody plays tennis.
Well, I think either make the decision.
So I think-
Put it in the plans or.
So we'll
take
put it
off
in the
and
plan
have to
and
come
take,
back or-
we'll remove the word future.
So,
I think we
Yeah,
already did
if that's a final
I think we
decision,
already
if
did
you're,
that.
if you're not sure and you wanna leave it off and then come back, you have to come back for site plan.
No, we actually anticipate.
I think we did take the future off too.
I would do those 3 things because people will play pickleball.
Yes.
People will go and sit around a fire pit, whether they have a fire in it or not.
Right.
And people will sit under a pergola no matter what it looks like. Right? These are amenities that will draw people,
See,
draw people to the facility for a very small price compared. So
no, I,
think that if you were to hold off, it would never happen. Or you'd end up having to have so many people's opinions about what it should be that you would never come to a conclusion, so you're better off just doing it. And then if later on, you have to modify it, I mean, yeah, I was looking at the fire pit too, and I'm like, where are they gonna keep the wood? It's like, put a gas one in.
it probably
You-
is.
Could be propane. You know,
Right,
you don't
like,
need a gas
there's
line.
a few, but there's the things, as a landscape architect, you think about these,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
next level of what happens, so
Can't do a gas line.
you'd have to do a tank,
Yeah,
but
so I
anyway.
said propane. But I mean, my thing is gladly do all those things. If I wanna if we make this a public road, we'll do all that stuff.
Actually, now that Aaron brought that up too, I'm reminded of something I had a question on that I forgot to write down. Is that really what that retaining wall is gonna look like?
Yeah, that was my next item, on 6.1, you're showing sheet piles.
There's a note in the drawings that says to be designed in the future by a structural engineer.
Well,
That's what I got out of it.
Well, I'll take it one step further, Doug. What I know, we do listen to you guys. I remember 2-3 meetings ago, you guys wanted to know what was going on with the wall. And I said, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm not in a position to explain the slope stability report. But the next meeting or the meeting of your choice, the structural engineer is now in a position to present what's going on. It's pretty involved. It's not just a decorative wall to hold up the embankment.
Right.
We actually, the finished grade is here and the wall is here, but to build the lower parking level, that sheet pile wall may be exposed 8 feet, but it's gonna go down another 10, so that's, 16 or whatever. And then beyond that, it's gonna go down another 8. So it's these sheet, so you really don't have we don't have a lot of choices. Sheet piling is the preferred solution. Because if you were to do concrete or something else, you have to excavate the
I
whole hill.
understand the logistics and
Yeah.
the temporary support of that while you're building it, you can create the 2, you probably end up using sheet piles to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think that sheet pile necessarily has to be an ugly thing. If you look at the style of architecture, you can do a lot of things to make it look good as well. You can put caps on it, you can do different kinds of things. It has as it ages.
Yeah, it's
Clean stuff that's not all totally beat up and being used over and over with big holes in it and all that, like, they can trim it off when it's done, like, there's ways to make it.
Well, that was our intent, but I wanted him to start with that presentation, but our intent right now is to have the sheet piling there to build it, and then the top part, we're gonna put some more landscaping once we've got the final details on the wall, but the intent is not to construct, you can construct an elaborate concrete cap, but it's up on a hill and nobody should be up there anyway, so.
Well, it'll be visible, because it.
No, I'm saying it'll be visible, but nobody will be up there. We're gonna put a fence on the top, so anybody gets up there, they're not gonna jump and be unsafe, so.
Well, we would need to see that too, because there's no fence shown on the drawings.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to have that when my structural engineer comes to present that and have that discussion.
To Because we're looking at setting a date for a public hearing, but it sounds like we don't have a lot of, there's, what else?
Well, that's what JD and I are just talking about. That is part of the site plan.
What it's
And
gonna
what
look
it's
like.
gonna look like, but it's gonna, the slopes and the Doug can review the grading and everything.
Well, we,
That was my last.
And we wanna,
well, I would say this, we have not received the formal set of comments from the board, so if you could put something together, that'd be great. Because it seems like, from our perspective, we've been changing the project as we go along, and from your perspective, you've been asking us questions at those snapshots in time. It'd be great to have one comprehensive list, and we could give you one comprehensive response
we're,
on the site plan in general.
Do you want me to email you my couple notes?
I guess, if that's. I don't know what else we have, like besides Doug's engineering review.
I mean, the comments you brought up are great. I mean, the sheet pile wall, that, to your,
Oh,
that has not been fully vetted and worked out, but we're very close. And then the items you brought up about the site amenities, that was a little open-ended. And the road and the road detailing, you picked up on that. Those, in my mind, I have a little list.
Send us a list of what you think, and then we'll put ours back in.
Pay out those three things, and we'll add, and we'll put the,
Accurate.
Jamie will put the Chris Danaher summary letter.
So you.
We'll do a draft on what we think should be in there, and you and Chris can,
Alright, Lisa has a list.
Sure.
And so.
And you're gonna give me
email her.
the road stuff as well. Okay.
yeah, I just think it'd be a lot more productive.
Yeah, I'm just
if we
thinking,
had
I think if we're talking public hearing, I think there needs to be a little bit of time to get that to you.
Yep.
You're back to
That'd
us.
be great.
So I'm thinking the earliest we can schedule for is August 25th.
Say, it comes back, whatever. Before we set the public hearing, that's just my thought. I just want to know.
Right. If we wait an extra meeting, that would be August 11th.
It's probably too quick.
No, I'm saying it would be August 11th that they would come back,
Oh.
and then we could schedule the public hearing. So that would be September.
Okay, so,
So it's just a matter of how much time we need for this, that for.
So you'd like all the comments addressed
Yeah,
before the
we were-
public
yeah.
hearing, Rich, is that what you're saying?
I think that'd be helpful because the public should have the ability.
That's fine with me,
think we
I prefer not to be up here talking about differences in front of
If
the
we
public.
schedule the
Yeah,
public
right.
hearing for the 25th, and they come back on the 11th,
Well, we should have them on our meeting.
right?
Yeah.
See if there's any.
Right, that's what I'm saying, we
Right.
have them on the 11th, and the public hearing is the
Okay.
25th.
To make sure there's nothing.
Valerie, the comments are really at this point, just kind of working through some details. So to get that back. to you,
Yeah,
I
And
think
to get
is-
time for Jamie and Chris to.
Right.
Discuss that.
Yeah, like, yeah. That's right.
No, this is good.
Okay, Doug, is there anything you can add, your comments to Lisa for like, for the retaining wall and slope and everything,
Yeah, I think.
or do you have comments now?
I think what Scott's saying, I think that structurability standpoint. It's like before. Long is the total slope isn't being moved. Cut that off, we'll talk about several times on this project over the years, and Scott has done the same thing. It's just rocks falling down the hill, right, and if you need something like sheet piling in place, then things won't roll into the building or into people out there.
And that's a very durable material.
And then then it just becomes a maintenance issue over the years to go in and clean it out.
And
Right,
that's,
but I think what he's talking about makes sense, because then you'd only put it in once. The only issue you get into is when you drive the sheet pile
Through that
through a
rock.
rock, through a gravel bed.
that's where Bill and
Right.
Tom come in.
Well, I think that there's a difference between the sheet pile that you see sometimes where you go over and over at construction sites that have a big hole in the top and it's all
Oh, I
the
got-
covered
yeah.
in spray paint and it's a mess.
Yeah.
Versus stuff that gets used and is meant to be more of a permanent thing, and you can
And
have
Joe,
a clean
Joe,
cut, you can have it stepped, you can whatever, you essentially the gap behind it, you have a fence incorporated somehow. as far as the slope and the landscaping goes, I think that, I don't think I've looked at geotech recently, but there's a lot, the stabilization of vegetation on there, I'm very interested in, because it's called out as a vegetative slope, I think, and in looking at a lot of the photos, and the last time I drove by it, it's a lot of debris and a few trees that have managed to hang on, and
Actually, that's why I want the geotech to come in, because we studied soil stabilization products, and then we looked at keeping it natural, and I know this, people probably don't want to hear this, but there's probably more benefit to leaving the hill the way it is and putting a preservation fence and, keep off the slope type thing. Because if you start putting things into that hillside, you're gonna displace the vegetation that's already grown there. What we came up with was the sheet pile in close proximity to the building. And then when it steps down to a lower height, then we're using on-site boulders to mitigate the moving debris, so.
I would still hope that there would be something even that long, step up a little bit to patching.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna, it's a couple of feet. And the thing to remember is the biggest rock there are rocks on that, I mean, they're not boulders coming down the hill, I mean, still a rock like that could do some damage,
Yeah,
so it's. but
and I think not always trying to revegetate stuff and build things where the material is lacking in organics because it grows. See a ton of that in our region, so it's something we're
Well, this is a unique site, and actually where the pickleball court and that back area of that bowl, that carved out area, we're actually filling up the hill. We're taking, the detention basin is too deep, we're filling the bottom of that with on-site granular material. And then we're filling a little bit of the hillside, so we're reducing the overall slope of that hill, the lower part.
So would the ongoing maintenance on that slope be part of the SWIP for permanent?
The SWIP technically is to maintain the areas within the disturbed area. That I would call a preservation zone, that hillside,
So
which would have fencing. It would be we're not going to maintain the hillside. I mean, unless it has like a slide or it's an existing condition, we're going to preserve it. It's like a.
So if that's something that they're gonna have to periodically check to see if the rock that's coming down needs to be cleaned up behind the wall or monitor the slope for
I see what you're saying.
stability, isn't that something that should be part of their long-term thing on file?
I see what you're saying, which if here's the wall and here's the slope, and if say 2 foot height is our safety zone, whatever the geotech comes up with, if that fills up with debris, it should be maintained. We could put that in, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's.
We could add that to the SWIP as a maintenance item.
Condition, right?
Yeah.
Right, and it's in the SWIP.
Well, that's why I wondered if the SWIP would cover it.
It's probably the best place for it to fit because it is a yearly legal document. Otherwise, to your point earlier, it's just in the notes and there's no accountability for it.
What's up top? Are there houses up top?
Oh, there's houses up there.
So, I mean.
There's more vegetation up top, and as you go down the hill, there's less
Yeah, that's what I
vegetation.
thought, okay, so that's,
We can incorporate that into this.
I think we might want to have a note on
The only
plan
thing
to that
that's
effect
come
as
down
well.
that hill
Yep.
in the last 30 years was recently a washer and dryer. Someone threw it over the hill.
okay, well, stranger things have happened.
It's there, you can drive by and see it, a washer and
Once
dryer.
they start touching embankments and stuff like that, especially suspicious things happen, and so.
No, that could be incremented, included easily.
Okay, so do you think you'd have everything in by July 30th to be back on the August 11th meeting
When would the comments be coming?
with the comments?
The comments will be coming by when?
As soon as we can, because we have another meeting next week because of our delay, so.
Well, Erin, you've got your comments ready.
I guess I can.
Yeah.
Best I can tell you.
And some of the comments, if you don't mind me saying, okay, yes, we should do this. Some things might be, okay, we agree, but maybe we would do this. There might be some things where we just have a different point of view and we might present it that way. So we put a lot of thought into what's in the plan.
We'll all do our best to move it along. I
Right,
mean, that's the
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, and I'm
And
just
if you guys
saying,
would like to be on for August 11th to discuss it further,
Yeah.
or if you want to, and then we'll, I think we can schedule the public hearing tonight for August 25th. That way the public will have enough notice that's on the 25th, rather than waiting until the 11th to schedule it for the 25th. Otherwise, we'd have to schedule that further, so I think we should schedule it
And
tonight.
so when would you like to meet with our geotechnical engineer, talk about this whole
Probably the 11th.
August 11th? So submit July 30th for August 11th, got it.
I think for those of you at the board, there's a geotechnical report. This electrical report was done by a professional engineer. They did a good job, and it's your prerogative to bring it in.
I think it's a big issue, or we could bring them in at the public hearing.
He offered it, because I was asking him questions, I didn't want to misrepresent what he designed
That's a
it.
good point, if there would be a benefit to public hearing.
Stages.
Did we get a copy of the geotech report?
Yes,
A long time ago.
We submitted that.
I'll go back and read it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's been a while.
it was completed by CME.
So
Alright,
CME
so
did
that's
it?
what we-
I thought Beardsley was your
Oh,
geotech.
Beardsley, structural, yeah, the structural engineer,
Oh, did
Beardsley
you
did it.
Oh,
Joe
okay.
Keen,
Joe did the structural.
yeah, CME did
CME did the
geotech, yeah.
Alright, so we'll
So,
have-
yeah, the CME information was used by Beardsley,
Okay.
so they both worked out.
We'll have him come on the 25th. That's
Okay.
the public hearing.
And he's a good people person, he can talk
So
up
I
with
need
that.
a motion to set the public hearing.
25th of August.
The 25th of August. Okay, made by Don, second by Rich for the public hearing on August 25th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. See you on the 11th. Public hearing.
Just one really superficial comment. Architectural drawings on sheet number 84, as I understand the orientation of the building, show a car going down the aisle.
You know what, I'll take responsibility for my actions, I'll pass that on to the architect. Mistake I didn't make. What's your hourly rate? You can make some good, we can't get people that just, you got a red pen, you get a set of plans and you go like this.
Maybe I should renegotiate the bill.
There's just some things
No,
that for
that's-
some reason pop out.
Yes, I get focused on this pipe invert and I miss some of the big stuff.
Give them the plan before you present it, you'll
Yeah.
Yeah. Save us all.
I'll give him the red pen with a little bit of ink.
All right, anything else?
Oh, thank you, it's been a long ride, but I'm seeing,
Thank you for your flexibility.
seeing a horizon here.
Thank you, guys.
Scheduled for the 25th of August.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on outside.
Okay, so that concludes our regular agenda. We do have some other business. So. Oh.
Excuse or refuse?
Excuse.
Okay.
Didn't I say excuse?
You said, but I just want to make sure.
You're in front of the meeting.
Yeah.
Take one for the roads over here?
Might as well.
All right.
Oh, I saw that.
You did? Yeah.
You don't have any?
So just a little information here, Clint Hines Group, they reached out to town. Asked if my group couldn't get on a phone call with Brian, Charlie, John O'Brien. Working with Eastman Group, and give a presentation, to my staff on some subtle changes for this project. And after we were completed, we doubled back with Charlie and Brian. The question was to either just move forward or have Brian come in and tell everybody what the subtle changes were, get some input, so he could streamline his comments and move forward. Make the subtle changes that he's got here.
introduce it to you. So James Butterfield.
I'll explain it in just a minute. He got way ahead of me there, but that was good. It was a good
I've been off
foundation.
for 6 years.
I'm gonna explain it right now.
Thank
You're not the only one. Nobody has heard anything of
nobody's
what
heard
we're doing.
Okay,
Jamie's in, otherwise I'm gonna start.
Jamie's in.
Okay, good. So this is the end of the night, so we're gonna be brief. It is kind of an informal work session type moment, just so we can share with you sort of some of the design progression that we've been through. Brian Bouchard with CHA, I'm the civil engineer, Charlie Brewer, the applicant and developer. And on the phone is Jamie Butterfield, Meredith and Stewart. They're from Perkins Eastman. They are the architectural design firm that's been hired to complete the construction documents for the project. As you know, we went through the whole district planning process. We spent a lot of time with the planning board to get our site plan approval. And I think we even mentioned it after going through several meetings and getting to the site plan approval, that it really is the close to like the preamble, and there's a lot of work to do to get the buildings occupied and up and running. So really what site plan approval allowed us to do was to move to the next step of the design progression in terms of completing the construction documents for the building permit. Site plan approval also kind of opens up some of the equity and financing options to complete the rest of the design. And Perkins Eastman was the firm that Charlie and his partners have hired to complete the building permit documents. Obviously, they were new to the project, so they took a lot of what we did and talked about contextually, and have designed substantially similar in terms of layout and site plan that we did talk with the town planner and Doug's office with. But they have changed some of the materiality and some of the functionality of the site. Really a lot of details in working through the facade and the fenestration. The buildings you'll see are generally the same. It's just the bump outs and bump ins are a little bit different, and they will present themselves largely the same on the site, but having to move some sidewalks and things like that. So we will owe you a full set of amended site plan drawings and building elevations. But as of a few weeks ago, we sort of got to a point when we're ready to complete that effort, which is several weeks worth of effort, and wanted to share with the design or with the planning board what the design team has really been showing to Charlie and the development team in terms of changing some of these things to make sure that you're comfortable with it, so that we don't waste a significant time of money and effort over the next couple of weeks coming back to you with an amended site plan to show some of these. So it's really informative. We appreciate your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, so that we can carry that forward in preparing the site plan amendment package. That's really what the purpose is. So on the phone, as I said, we have Jamie, Stewart, and Meredith on the architecture side. I'm going to take you through sort of all the design progression, and I can answer any of the specifics about the site, and the Perkins Eastman team can get into some of the details if you need to and have time to about some of the building material choices. So what you're seeing on the screen here is really a comparison. So on the left is our site plan that we had approved, and on the right is the very small differences that you'll see. It's essentially the same from 30,000 feet, but again, the buildings, bump outs and bump ins and some of the facade fenestration present themselves differently. There is a very small shift as well to the interior space between the buildings. One of the things that Perkins Eastman noticed about the site was really kind of pairing together the functionality of the building and the way that pedestrians will move, and how that needs to happen to get this pedestrian spine, primarily from the rear building, up through the center of the site, which is where all the activity is going to be, the waterfront, the amenities, the clubhouse area, and the places that you're going to enjoy as far as the waterfront goes. So we did separate that. We had a drive aisle there before because we were coming in and out of the ends of the buildings. And the architectural team has revised the building entrances to come out the side of the building, so that we can free up that cavity between the two buildings for this pedestrian spine that's going to connect all three buildings to a crosswalk at the clubhouse. So there's some of those smaller things that you'll see too. The shape of the clubhouse, it's generally in the same spot, but the shape of it's slightly different. So we're going to work on some revisions to the sidewalks and such.
But I just,
Sure.
my eyes are not crazy at my age, but you're current on 6 and you're current on 7. The Central Promenade, what seems to line up on those two?
You're correct. So, this is not meant to be final. There was a lot of iterations. Generally, I think the theme that I'm telling you is we deleted the vehicular way that used to be between those two buildings so that the garages now come out and discharge into the parking lot so that we could use that space as the pedestrian
Say
spine.
current 7 is more contemporary than current 6.
Correct. Yes. You can see how we've rearranged some of the green space so that there's a wider walkway here that you're seeing on the right-hand side of the page. Taking away that driveway access from essentially the fronts of the buildings so that it's more pedestrian centric between those buildings. That's where people are gonna be coming out. And a lot of people trying to get to the clubhouse, so we wanted to free ourselves of vehicular activity between those buildings. We've gone through some of the traffic circulation. And we'll have a final version of that to present to you, but I think that's what I wanna get across is that we've kind of rearrange the parking lot specific to the building's functionality and how we're getting pedestrians up to that clubhouse. And then some smaller things that we'll go through at some of the later slides. You don't need to change that, Charlie, with respect to like the amenity area, and how that presents itself to the clubhouse and interconnecting pedestrian movements between, the amenity area and the retail building. I think the next slide deals with the before and afters of the residential building. So this is obviously where Perkins Eastman has had their time to shine the last several months. What you see here is the rendering that we presented for the final approval. This was sort of their basis in terms of size, scope, and location of building. And then if we scroll down to the proposed facades, we are using generally the same materials, but they have taken a much elevated kind of design schematic in terms of the way that this building is broken down both vertically and horizontally. And I know that Jamie can explain that to you in a variety of different ways. There's different accents that they've done, changing some of the cupolas to something a little bit more matching of the building and the style that they've chosen. And then you can see how the clubhouse presents itself similar to that last image as well. The next image is actually a closer up view, so you can start to see how there's a lot of relief to the building. So the modules are different shapes, different sizes. There's a lot more depth than what was presented on the previous elevation as well.
Maybe a coloration issue. Is the roof pitch the same between previous and proposed? It looks less on the proposed scheme, but maybe it's just a matter of coloration.
The height of the building or the?
Pitch of the roof.
Okay, the pitch of the main eave of the roof or the accents of the dormers, because they're probably both slightly different.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
Of the main dark roof look greater there than on the proposed scheme, but the angle's different, the color's different, so maybe they're not, it's just
Yeah.
It's a shallower.
a shallower pitch.
It could very well be. I don't want to get hung up on the pitch of the roof just yet, because I think the whole aesthetic is really where we're going at. Yeah, and Jamie can maybe look to see if he has a comment to kind of follow up on that as well. But there's a lot more going on here, again, both vertically and horizontally. This looks like a 4-story building. The other building kind of had accentuated the garage a little bit more. There's a lot of relief and depth in where you're coming in and out of the building, where you can see the crosswalk there. That kind of invites you in.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to get this straight. Who remembers what the height of the stories were on the PBD?
We've always had a 5-story building, so it's always been a parking garage on the first level and 4 stories of residential above it. I don't think there was a very specific height that was written into the actual district plan. But this is the same building, both in terms of its footprint and its intent to provide 1 level of parking garage with 4 levels of residential.
So nominally, it's basically the same size building.
I'm not sure. That's a good question, though.
We thought small.
The parking garage should be a podium, and then it could be wood
Small
frame
changes
above
that
it.
have been made, right, with the bump outs. Let's see. The accent of increasing walkability, you know, promenade coming to the buildings, being walkable.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to get into moving over to the two commercial buildings, you know, to make those more accessible to the residents of the facility, which is where most of their traffic is gonna come from, and make that walkable. We thought everything that they've done was really positive.
When we went through it with John, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even like the way, even the way like the parking garage is shown now. I mean, the only comment we came back with was, you know, the posts look a little bit skinny, so you might wanna beef them up a little bit, but that was about it. Everything else, I mean, I'm still Brian's thunder, but
no, this is great, right, that's what,
they're all accents.
that's what, you know, the first slide was really minimal site plan changes, but need to be changed just by way of an amended site plan, because we're reorganizing some of the parking lot. We did have an excess number of parking spaces in our previous approved plan. I think we were ahead by like 50 spaces. And some of those greenery and the pedestrian spine will reduce that, but we will still obviously provide a compliant parking plan for the district plan. The second step is really to show you the architecture. And I think if Charlie scrolls down a little bit, we'll get to, unit mix is the same, right? So we haven't added units by way of this. Still 309 units. And then the third, so we have site plan, we have the architecture, and then really this area, which Perkins Eastman spent a lot of time on in terms of relationship, both architecturally, but we sort of had this gap here, right? So you could look on the previous plan, we had started trying to stretch toward North Burdick Street, but we were concerned that the folks that would be living above the mixed use building, and then sharing some of the amenity that we could create essentially with those mixed use building, making sure that they're more intertwined. So we basically now have on the current side, which is the right-hand side of the screen, this continuous flow, which we'll be adding walkways both by way of sidewalk and then some other walkways along the water. We have this continuous flow from the clubhouse to the amenity with some of the outdoor fitness area and sport courts that is now, you know, basically a few hundred feet away from this retail component, which if you actually scroll down, I think it's, this is a zoomed in view of it, so you can see how we've shifted those buildings over so that they're now part of the project and don't feel as disconnected by the parking lot. And then if you really scroll down to some of the imagery of the architecture, you're gonna see some of that retail terrace. So this is the clubhouse before and after. You can see how the, yeah, go to the terrace view. So this is really an extension of sort of the clubhouse's terrace. So this is gonna feel as if it's one contiguous area that you can have in terms of an amenity, rather than that retail space being so disconnected that it kind of feels like it's on its own. We think this would attract maybe a better tenant for that retail space because it will be now more engaged and active with the project. And this area also has more space to kind of open up and provide a similar overlook and area adjacent to the pond that we were doing with the clubhouse there. The architecture that you could just stay right on this slide, obviously the architecture of the mixed use building was substantially different before, and this is certainly more developed and elevated. It's obviously intended to mimic the architecture of the bigger buildings. Generally the shape and size of these are the same, where it's going to be ground floor commercial and then a few residential units on those upper floors. So we didn't change the program, we really just changed the way that it looks and feels in terms of both the architecture and the site layout plans that Perkins was able to work through with us there. So with the slides, I think Charlie may have sent you a few. I have these. I've just very basically gone through, you know, minimal site plan changes, at least for you. For me, it's like a whole exercise of going through grading and drainage and everything again. So it's a lot of effort. That's why we wanted to come before you. And then obviously significant changes in terms of the architectural design, which hopefully you can appreciate. And we'd like to leave here at least with, you know, some comments, either good, bad, or indifferent, so that we can feel comfortable in sort of coming back at one of your next meetings with a fully amended site plan package for you to actually review and comment on. Obviously, Jamie's on the phone with Perkins Eastman, so if there's, kind of told him not to get very specific on architecture, but if there's things that you either want to see or something that he can maybe answer just outright here, he would be able to do that for you as well.
I have a couple questions so far, and I'm the same, mostly the same. First of all, I think it's fantastic taken something that you worked really hard at to kind of make unique to the area, but still be a buildable project, and you work through all these things and stay dedicated to the process, the project, and the site. This really just takes it to the next level. Everything I see that you've changed, I feel is textbook good planning and good, good combination of the different uses of the site, pedestrian in particular, and then bringing in all of the amenities and stuff like that, which is something that I think is really important. One of the, I did also notice the building almost looks like it's floating a little bit because the posts are thin, and then there appears to be some kind of like, is there a fencing around the bottom as well of the parking garage level? I should.
Yeah, it looks like the partition.
So I do think that if thickening the posts is something, it's just a little light on the bottom, it almost looks like it's hovering too much, but honestly, I think this gives off a lot of, when you look at this building in the context of the greater site and its unusualness, it almost, I don't know if I'm getting it right, but it almost looks like you're at a wildlife refuge and you're in the site looking at it from like a bird line, looking out.
Yeah.
Like the buildings feel like you're on
In a good way though, right?
Yeah,
So I'm gonna agree with you as long as it was in a good way. So yes, that, some of the perspectives here,
I know, you never know what I'm gonna say.
this is more from like the kayak point of view
Yeah,
rather than the wildlife point of view.
Giraffe and zebras.
But all the things, and we may have skipped over it, but there was a lot of thought put into the local area and the things that we have around
Yeah.
us, right? And that's what Jamie and his team really picked up on first without really, you know, seeing too much of it. Was we do have the waterfront, we have the Erie Canal Trail, we have Limestone Creek, we have other things in the area like Green Lake State Parks and other things. And kind of capturing that like in an image took a long time.
It's bringing all the little pieces together. And
Yeah.
I like the way the clubhouse actually juxtaposes the architecture aspect of it a little bit, because it makes it almost fit in a little bit better that it's not so matchy-matchy.
Yeah.
Even though that's a good thing, I didn't have a problem with the project before.
Right.
I think that seeing this is just, it's fantastic. So the posts and the architectural lightness along the bottom, maybe there's a way to carry that forward, so the building doesn't look like it's floating, but.
You're talking about the residential part, not the clubhouse.
Correct.
Yeah, the residential, noted, duly noted, it's already being worked on. It was actually one of the things that John and Doug, it was really actually the only comment. It was like, not gonna design the building for you, but the base of the building looks good, that it's kind of diminishing the height of the building, but maybe something that's more substantial to make it look a little less like it's on, you know, stilts.
Like on a flood zone on the.
Yeah,
A lot of the well, I guess they're kind of a schematic or a concept, is showing a lot of infill vegetation where we're previously seeing, it shows up on the retail drawing, page 23 on the current. That's showing a ton of trees and stuff down on that point area. And when you look at the previous, you know, we had talked about scenic and all sorts of stuff in the regraded areas and all these kinds of things. Are you really proposing to put in all those trees and shrubs? Because if you are, that's great.
so which version are you talking about?
23.
Okay, so our plan did not survey every tree that exists down there. We walked the site and had a drone take some aerial photographs. So a lot of that is natural vegetation. The area of the slope is not presented correctly because we are filling that slope in.
Yes.
And we will have to revegetate the slope with the stabilized seed mix and a lot of the other things that we had thought about, but this was not intended to show you a planting plan. This was probably more based on some of the existing vegetation that was captured in some of the
Well,
drone
if there's
shots,
anything
but
in there that's worth keeping, it doesn't get taken out by grading.
yes, down by the water where when you get outside of our Toa slope, which is probably about a third of the way into that peninsula.
Yeah.
The peninsula is represented very accurately, I would say. There's a lot that's like sandy, I don't wanna call it a sandy beach, but there's a lot that's not vegetated down by the water.
Yep.
And then as you do start to go up the hill, there's a significant area that we won't have to clear. So it's probably a mix of both.
But you got survey on that?
Yes, we have survey, and what's not shown on this is the grading limits that would have to remove the trees, so we'll
So
make sure.
that's just something,
Yep.
if you move along, you could incorporate it.
Sure.
I think that was. I think that was it for now. As people talk, I might come up with some.
The only other thing that we really talked about, I think, Brian, was inside parking garage and then parking outside. Because some of the changes have impacted some of the parking. We talked about smaller parking spaces, and we were fine with that, right?
Yeah,
'Cause I think
9
that-
by 20.
so we had an excess, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, it was probably 50 extra spaces compared to the zoning requirement that we had. When you look at the plan that's now called the current plan, there's a lot more green space, and primarily the pedestrian spine has taken up some of those spaces. So the way that we've reorganized it, we will have less spaces. Now, there's some areas, just because you're 9.5 feet, typical is usually 9 feet, but that's not the town of Manlius, it's 9.5 feet, or 10 feet. Is it 10 feet?
I think it's.
Okay.
It's 10 by 20.
So if you have a row of 6 or 7 spaces, you're not gonna gain an extra space. But for instance, some of the longer runs, if there was an opportunity to reduce it to 9.5 feet or something like that, we would pick up a space or two, or potentially in the garage, if they didn't have to be 10-foot spaces. And in the garage, we have a little bit of benefit from having columns, so it's not measured as a 10-foot space. It might be a 9-foot space with a column, but you can still open a door and have extra space. And using that to our advantage may help with reducing impervious area, keeping the green space that we have, and still accommodating the parking needs that we have. It won't be a broad net that's cast across the entirety of the site. It might just be in a couple of the longer.
Like compact, there was a trend for a while with compacts.
Yeah, I mean, we do that all over the place. These wouldn't be compact spaces though. No, I mean, down in the city, we've done compact, we've done tandem park, we've done Mini Coopers, we've done the big ones.
No, we might, Brian might reduce it down to 9 feet.
Right,
9
yeah,
feet,
9 by
9
18
feet,
is
right?
very typical.
It's common, it's a little bit tight. If you go to BJ's, that's probably what they are. So it feels a
Yeah.
little bit cramped from what you normally see.
Yeah.
But it's doable and it works. And in this case, I think it would work well. The other thing was, with the dedicated garages, right? We had a parking space in front of the garages. And I think our discussion was, if you rent a garage space, then you would get 2 cars. Have one outside the garage, one inside the garage, and then it would just be up to you
Oh.
to move your cars accordingly, right?
Correct, yeah, and we did have that on
We
one
thought that
of
was
the
fine too.
garages,
I like that.
yeah, in the old plan. It's an efficiency of parking because it deletes an entire driveway, but if you have a 2-bedroom unit and you have 2 cars, or let's say you have a car that you don't drive often, right, your Maserati or whatever it is, put it in there, and then you can keep your daily driver outside of it, so it frees up parking, for other people that might need it as well.
Or just give us some flexibility.
We're
I wanna know how expensive those rents are.
Yeah. 1968 Chevy, there's plenty of them downtown this weekend. Yeah, so we will have a final version of the parking plan, and we'll explain that when we submit the amended drawings where we might capture that.
There's a lot of like paths shown, walking paths and stuff. Now, is that also just kind of for looks at this point? Are you gonna work through?
No, a lot of that was based on when we were down there. This is obviously a vision, right? When you are down there, as an able-bodied person at least, there are places where you can walk down the embankment and get over here. So we don't want to limit that. I think it would be available, but everywhere that you can go and be connected by a stone dust trail or something that may come up and down, we will provide an accessible way by way of a concrete sidewalk, for instance, from the clubhouse to the retail patio. There might be things that go down. There's a little small ravine there that we walk through. That might just be a stone dust trail that people can enjoy, but there will be at the top of the hill a way to get the ADA accessibility there as well. Same thing with the pavilion at the peninsula, having a way to get strollers and walkers or whatever you might need to do down the roadway, but there might be also a walking path that goes along more the Green Lake style trail that goes along the waterfront there.
Sharon, can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
There was discussion, and I don't know what happened with it or anything, but connecting the pathways to the Erie Canal pathway, so we can connect them in the village. Is there anything given some thought to that one?
We are in the same boat and have committed to it as much as we can as a private property. There's another property that owns the creek, and then there's a Limestone Creek Trail. So at a point in time, if there was the financing and ability and permission, your permission has been granted by way of the easement that's on the map, yes, yeah.
Sorry.
Did you keep the doggy walking area in?
Yes, so the dog walk area and the playground, both of which are kind of off to the side there for like the noise issues, are definitely still there. We have expanded the amenity area in that area behind the clubhouse significantly. I think there was some space that we may have put in the northwestern corner, like along the north pond. It was kind of like a pocket park that we have used, but it was displaced by a much greater area elsewhere on the site, just because we needed to trade some of that off. But the general idea of the amenities is still the same, with the playground and the dog park kind of tucked in the corner, and then elaborating on some of the other space we have along the waterfront.
And then as you go forward with design, you'll consider wayfinding and signature of the property with your site features, like light poles. Are you gonna have lit bollards on the paths? You know, what the lighting scheme is gonna be.
Yeah,
Light fixtures and wayfinding, is it all gonna be a unique, is it gonna be a unique signature to the site design wise that is incorporated with that?
so lighting, we definitely have decorative lighting all the way along the roadway and within the parking lot.
But that might change based on the architectural changes.
Right.
The field.
And then some of it in terms of pedestrian scale lighting, I think we probably still owe you. We haven't thought about that, but if we needed to put in the plans, I'll make a note of it.
But just think about it, because if you're gonna have people using, given our daylight shortage sometimes of the year, it's really nice when you get to this level of a design to have some lower bollard type pedestrian lighting. And there's people who love it, and there's people who hate it, and that's totally up to you guys, but think about it. On some of these areas where you might be able to get away with getting rid of a lot of the pole lights and bringing some of it down to just pedestrian level light, bollard type light.
Understood.
If this really moves on in a level of design up to more of like a campus, like a college campus, institutional almost level design, and those are, and along with the wayfinding, I think it's really important.
That you just mean for vehicles more or less?
No,
Or-
mostly pedestrian, like play area, clubhouse, bocce dock, like trails.
I don't think we've thought about that yet. This is a little bit different than like a nature center type of thing, because I think if you're living here very quickly, you'll find your surroundings, and then maybe the wayfinding wouldn't be
Maybe
that helpful,
then
but
it's just the signage of what it is.
on it, yeah, okay.
But
yeah.
that, think about it.
Sure.
Because that's something that can be employed in many ways depending on what the site needs are. It's kind of a broad term, I think.
No, I get what you're saying, for sure.
A question and a comment, I think. I agree, I think it looks really great. And just a question about the retail buildings. And it may just be hard to tell in the pictures, I can't tell if that second building is still an L shape. Either on 26 or 27, I just can't see the L shape. So is it still L shape?
Yes, the rendering is actually looking at the non-L shaped part, so that's why you don't see it. But yes, the building that kind of closes in that pedestrian area or the terrace area is an L shape, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it just doesn't, it's hard to show on the drawing properly, and then this building over here on page 27 must be the L-shaped one.
Yeah, you can see how it's connected. The one that's just off to the left in the
Yeah.
perspective would be
So
the
it
L
looks like it'd
shape.
be closer to that retail terrace circle thing, but.
Yep.
So I'll be interested to see how that ends up looking. Yeah, and I think everything looks great. I love all the increased activity and pedestrian access and everything, I think that's a great idea. My only thing that I'm like not super crazy about, but again, it's just one opinion, is the front design of the clubhouse. It just doesn't really match the rest, not that it has to, I guess it doesn't coordinate as much with the rest of architectural. I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, it's just on page 20, the front of the clubhouse, just to me, doesn't coordinate as much with the rest of the property, the buildings.
Fine, it goes flat, others are front of the clubhouse, there's nobody just, this is kind of the back, kind of looking at the footprints and why is there different roof projection?
Yeah, to me, it like, I hate
On
to say this,
30, on 20 rather than there is on the one that shows the front facade of it.
the only thing I can compare it to is like a contemporary church from the 70s or something.
I think it looks like a library. It's not a bad thing.
I think it looks like a nature center.
Yeah.
Hey, Stuart,
I don't
if you
know,
can
just
hear
like
us.
I mean, but I'm not a designer, so.
Yeah,
that's just my
no, he's
personal
definitely got an answer for this. So
You can't see the gable end.
if we can hear you, the dichotomy sort of between using the same building materials and aesthetics and design choices, but in a different shape, I guess, for the clubhouse and sort of the roof line that you picked, there's probably some functionality to it, both from the internal space, et cetera. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and
Good,
clear.
okay, hi. This is Jamie Butterfield speaking. Yeah, we did purposefully change a little bit about the general aesthetic of the clubhouse to allow it to stand apart as the signature sort of amenity feature for the district or for the complex, and to feel as though it's attached a bit more to the natural setting than the larger residential building or the retail building. It felt sort of like the special building on the property. So the aesthetic of it is different. The shed roofs, the overlapping shed roofs are different, but they are designed to reflect the current programming strategy. So in plan, on the street side, that is kind of the back of the building in terms of the spaces within the building are really orienting themselves toward the water. So the large gable, which centers the building overlooking the water, is the sort of signature interior space of the clubhouse. It's the main meeting room. And then there's a pub, and then there's a conferencing room, all sort of front and center on the water. On the street side, it's really sort of restrooms, lockers, and officing. So the scale of those spaces is lower. The ceiling heights are lower. Those spaces are fenestrated. There's still windows, but the windows are smaller. And they're really scaled more toward the pedestrian and the street, and sort of allow the building to have a grand presence and a sort of discovery process. When you enter the building, you sort of discover that there's this amazing view, and the view opens up to the water and the space inside. We haven't really gotten into the more detailed design of the clubhouse, but we'd like to imagine the sequence of arrival into that space opens up toward the view and the substantial glazing overlooking the water. One last note is, although the building looks a little bit distinctive compared to the others, the idea is that the materiality would bear consistency across the three different buildings. So the idea of using stone, perhaps it's early days, but we are thinking that maybe there are some timber components on the exterior that's sort of demonstrated in the wood framing elements that are part of the facade and the glass. All of those components, from a material standpoint, will exist on the other buildings. So we feel that the materiality will be a shared element that'll help link the buildings together. But that this one in particular, we are thinking of a little bit different, and we've allowed ourselves to shape the building a little bit differently.
I think they hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think my opinion matters in either way, shape, or form what you're doing. You really hit it out of the park. I love it. I love the opening, how it opens up to the vista, going into the lake. I mean, just absolutely, I love it.
Yeah. My only other thought, and like I said, I like the back of the building. I'm sure you're accounting for I don't know where your current farm is located, but I'm sure you're accounting for our weather, and I'm just imagining like snow and ice sliding off the back of that building, but I'm sure you're got that taken care of.
Yeah, there are
That'd
some
be all right.
strategies that we'll deploy to manage the snow issue. We're certainly cognizant of that, and we'll develop that as we move forward in the design at a more detailed level to manage it. And we can return to you with strategies about how we're doing that.
What I pictured when I looked at this, if you look back and forth between the front where you have that second story window, is if you walk in from this side, you're gonna be in that center corridor, and you're gonna see all those windows kind of facing the upper level, and if you look left, you're gonna see this huge triangular presentation of the lake. So I think the difference in height of those two shed roofs and the glazing, that it's like gonna be a really cool experience when you're in there. And then to kind of diminish that one-story portion of the office space, which obviously Jamie said way better than I could. I just picture it.
I can see a round fireplace right underneath that peak inside the glass there.
Yeah.
With a copper. Yeah, I would just.
Yes, done.
I think this roof picture, like, I look at these two pictures, 11 and 12, and it just seems like the building is suppressed because of the shallow roof. That's my reaction to it. Maybe the 1-3 on this or something like that. Rise to run, run the lines. I heard a beige tone on the projections.
You're talking
It seems
main,
flat in terms of coloration.
you're talking main.
Pardon?
You're talking the main building.
Residential.
Talking the apartment structures. I think the promenade fits it out of park. Board members, the clubhouse, that mix of roof lines in spite of the sophisticated representation by the architect, it's so puzzling to me. Shed roof looks kind of dated, but I'm an old guy, so that happens. And the retail terrace, I think, is terrific. Promenade is really a fantastic renovation to the plan. It brings that third building in front where before was sort of, gee, you're gonna have to cut the rents.
Yep.
A bad neighborhood, so that's terrific. I just optically from 11 and 12, I just look at this, it looked like the building got flattened somehow.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer for that, Stuart, or if there was even a very clear pitch of the previous roof design compared to the pitch of the roof that we're seeing in these images. It is from a lower perspective, so that could be why you're not seeing as much of the roof.
Right.
Versus this, because the building is the same length, but maybe some of the dormers and the cupola are skewing our perspective too. Do we have an answer for that, or maybe we can?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna say we're still playing around. The pitch would be a minimum of 4 on 12 on the main roof of the apartment buildings. This is Stuart Lax, by the way, with Perkins Eastman. We're still, still playing it around. The intent is for the ridge line to be approximately the same as the previous. We're not gonna, and not any flatter than 4 on 12, which is really a recommended minimum on an asphalt shingle roof. And then the gable ends, the bays, would probably be a little bit steeper pitch there, but staying within the overall roof line.
I think the fact that we're looking at the bottom garage area, and we're trying to beef it up so it doesn't look like it's on stilts, will also change the look of the roof. It'll make it look one cohesive unit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thin columns on the bottom makes it look a little flatter, to be honest with you. If you add that one, I think it's a difference.
I don't think even if the roof pitch is different than the previous one, that honestly, in my opinion, that it matters because I think it suits the design of this building. I think you have to look case by case at how this stuff works. And if it feels a little too light on the top, then sometimes there's other ways of helping to bring that down a little bit. If it's a little bit darker of a shingle or a little bit thicker of a fascia or a darker fascia, or the trim and maybe not necessarily the full fenestration type stuff, but I think that it works in this case, and I think it's it's modern, but it's also, it brings back some of the best design aspects of some of the previous generations of design that we've seen. And so it's kind of like classic, if you will, but also being modern at the same time. And unique, because we don't, at least in my opinion, we can see the same kind of stuff here that we're seeing everywhere else. And this doesn't feel like that. And, you know, I don't know where you guys are, where they're out of, but maybe it's.
Because Eastman is actually all across the world, so truly are like a global, world-renowned architecture firm. I believe we're from a few different offices, across the Northeast here. I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, we're from both New York and Stanford, represented on this call. And I just would like to extend my thanks for from the design team side for your comments and what appears to be some enthusiasm for the direction that we've taken here. We were really inspired by the site, both the immediate site, but also the local history and the opportunity to connect this building in a very special way to its place. And we felt like the building should look a little bit distinctive, and feel somehow, for a large residential building, to somehow feel connected to Twin Ponds. So that's where we're headed with the design.
Well done.
Yeah, we're just noticing there's the change in the parking garages. They were enclosed before, correct?
Yeah, they had windows, so it truly
Right.
looked like, you know,
They were like
5
more,
stories.
yeah, and these are more outdoor garage.
Yeah.
Questions of snow removal, of lighting, of stuff. I think headlights is a question, how are the headlights? But there's a lot of things you can do with screening, certain directions of screening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we are, I don't know if it all came through in the rendering, but we are proposing that those openings would be screened. I think you brought up a good point about the headlights. I think we still need to look at whether or not the openings extend all the way to the ground or might be raised up a little bit, which I think would also addressing some of the comments that came earlier about giving a little bit more mass to that base without making it feel too heavy.
Yeah, I hate to draw too much attention from the balance of the vertical lines of the panels of the building with the smaller detail of the fenestration, because I feel like that's a highlight. And kind of like a subtly kind of beef up the bottom without drawing too much attention to it. And address the needs of the parking garage in our climate. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but having it open might reduce your mechanical load too. Like, do you have to ventilate it? Do you get out of it having to do some of that?
Yeah, if it meets certain code required minimums in terms of openness and distribution of the openings around the perimeter, we don't need to mechanically ventilate the garage. So there is some advantages to that.
I think that once you think that into the next steps, I think it will come there.
All right. Anybody else have any other comments for them? Obviously, this probably goes without saying, but just making sure that it aligns with the original PUD, otherwise you have to go back to.
Yes, of course.
No, that's definitely not the intent. No, they have the district plan, they're sticking to it. I got it, we're sticking to it, and we just have a little bit of time now to obviously put a lot of your comments and detail to the plan, enough to put you in a position to allow an amended site plan approval, which is the whole document set again. So it sounds like it was positive, so thank you. I know this was informal and we're taking up some of your time, but it was helpful to us, and hopefully we'll see you back here at, definitely one of the
So we'll
next
wait to
couple
hear from
meetings.
you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. All
All right,
right.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Another item of business. Everybody probably received an email, it's not a Manlius email for training. So that is required training for anyone that has a town of Manlius email.
I felt like I just did it too.
I don't think so, it's probably, I mean, it's definitely an annual thing, so, but they did note that they're gonna start to do it on the calendar year, so they'll come back again in January of 2026.
We do it
Also
online.
delinquent.
But it did say in there that if you've done it with another company, you can send your certificate to show that, so if anyone
really?
has their employee there and you've already done it
Oh, okay.
with census, you could, show that.
I'm okay with it.
And the
So-
link expires in 5 days or something.
You gotta go in and.
Yeah, you gotta go in and start, like,
Yeah.
activate it basically within 5 days.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
promise I won't wait so long, Lisa, where you have.
Hopefully
again.
It's okay,
It's okay.
all right, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll happily make the motion.
Motion
Rich left me with the response.
made by Judy, motion made by Judy, second by David, how about?